Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish, making his triumphant return after letting the inmates run the asylum last week. I'm sure you're all glad to have me back. I know I'm certainly glad to be back. And I'm very excited today to introduce you to our fantastic panel of nerds because I am a huge fan of one of them and only one of them. The one that I am not a big fan of is Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
Bro, I am so glad you're back. You have no idea. Last week was a complete and total clusterfuck. I mean, it was. I'm just so glad you're back. I never thought I'd be more happy to see you sitting in that corner instead of Mexican Iron Man. That you have no idea. No, I know Mexican Iron Man's in the chat, so. It's good to see you. Good to see you guys. And I am really happy you're back because I am no host. And I was really glad Mike was here to pick up the slack a little bit last week. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah, Mike did his best with you unruly crowd of
super unruly.
Yes, indeed. But speaking of unruly, we have Brian from the Popcast. He's here. He's queer. He's our gender non-binary shield against all things woke. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? Vader's eyes are just fucking killing me right now.
Vader with his AI eyes. Yeah.
Blink, 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 blink. Good to be back, bro. Good to see you back, Mr. Kadish, and hope you're feeling better after Thursday.
Yeah, indeed. But I want to just give a quick shout out to you, Brian, because you and Robert Meyer Burnett did one of the most fascinating live streams about Star Trek Discovery I think I've ever watched.
Hell yeah.
Thanks.
On Thursday. It was very entertaining. I actually hope that you somehow find the time to go through each and every episode of that entire series and do what you did on Thursday, because that was a lot.
Rip it apart.
Yeah, just rip it apart.
I guess I still need to watch that.
But you guys did it with love.
With love.
With love.
Right. like like that Dune guy.
Jodorowsky.
Jodorowsky, yeah.
I raped them. I raped them.
With love.
With love.
With love.
Yes. And speaking of love, we have the man who loves pineapple on his pizza, Odin from OMB Reviews, joining us today. How you doing, buddy?
Those are all lies. I do not enjoy the pineapple on pizza. It's getting old, Matt. But glad
it will never get old.
I want to reach down there and scratch the top of his bald head.
Just with your weird eyes. How dare you put that back on? You know that scares people.
It does scare people. But
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say we wanted to show our special guest today just how creepy Vader could be.
Yeah. It's working.
A creepy dude.
It's not a hard thing to do. It's not a hard thing to show.
It really isn't. Wait till we start talking about his feet. That'll be the pinnacle of creepiness. But I'm very happy to introduce our special guest on the panel today. She is someone that I have been a fan of since 2014 when I discovered her channel on YouTube. And she is the lovely and talented artist formerly known as Comic Book Girl 19, Danika. Is it Danika 19 or DanikaXIX?
I just say XIX, but it is supposed to be 19. So it's like an elevated form, because I felt like Comic Book Girl 19. I had many years with that name. I love it, but I'm a woman now and I wanted to rebrand. The internet made a woman of me, in fact, and they're not gentle. So here I am, DanikaXIX now. And it's so good to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, thank you for being on the panel. We really appreciate having you here. And before we get going, guys, I want to welcome a new member to the Salty Nerd Club membership. Stephen Abbott became a member before we even went live.
Hell yeah.
And also want to give a big shout out to everyone in the chat. We're going to start with Wendy Hunter, One Punch Man Tolkien fan, Cocho Dragon, Danny's mom Penny, Caladin910. Good to see you guys here. We got Major Chai Chai in the chat and E. Clay Tomlinson. Anthony Mark, of course, is here as always. Thank you all guys for being here today at the start of the stream. We really appreciate it. And real quick, just want to give people a little bit of a breakdown before we get into our Dune 3 theories. Our goal for today is 10 new members. I guess 9 now that we had that new member sign up. So if you haven't already, be sure to sign up for Salty Nerd membership. You get exclusive content in our we even have a playlist for it. It's a members only playlist, so you can see all the other previous member stuff that we released. And also
Nice.
give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, because we're trying to get as many of those as possible, so that Rotten Tomatoes will acknowledge us as actual movie reviewers instead of plebes.
I want to make a quick announcement that you can refer to me as for today only, in honor of having Danica here on the show. I am now Matt Vader, LXXIV.
That's right. How quickly did you Google what Roman numerals?
Oh, I know my
are
Roman
74?
numerals, sir.
Okay.
Actually,
But
He
I
knows.
Googled
He
it.
knows.
I Googled it.
Yeah. Also, guys, be sure to just sign up for our Discord at saltynerdiscord.com. Go to that website, takes you right to the invite, so you can get access to our Discord chat, where we talk about all types of fun things. But also, in honor of our guest, I want to encourage you to go check out her YouTube channel. It's at Comic Book Girl 19, and she's also a huge Twitch streamer. So if you are on Twitch, go to DanikaXIX over on Twitch, and you stream pretty regularly over there, don't you, Danica?
Yes, we stream every Saturday, and we do Mystery Danica Theater, where we watch a movie, and I play the movie, so it's a little illegal, but whatever, it's fine. Nobody's popping me yet, and I'm a little picture in picture, and we have fun. And today, in honor of the spring equinox coming up next week, we are watching Ken Russell's Lair of the White Worm. It is totally unhinged. There is no way I will be able to censor all of the nudity in this film. I do live censoring, so you may get a peek of something today, and I'm probably going to have to delete the stream right after we're done. So you should come hang out. It's at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Mystery Danica Theater on twitch.tv/DanikaXIX.
Yeah, I hear Kick doesn't care if you ever want to hop on over there.
I may have to make the switch someday. We'll see, but I've been doing this for years. And if I tried this on YouTube, I would immediately get popped.
Oh yeah, within
Immediately. Well, yeah. But on Twitch, it's like, it's fine. So
no one's paying attention.
so I'm gonna pirate this shit as long as I can.
As long as it's artistic nudity, it's allowed, apparently.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, this is very artistic, I guess.
It is a crazy movie. I watched it a really long time ago.
It is intense.
Yeah, it's not for everyone.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's fun.
It is. Real quick, I also want to give a big shout out to our top super chat and top contributor of 2024, William Forbus. Guys, William has been dropping super chats left and right on both of our live streams, so big shout out to him. Also want to give a big shout out to Scotty Dub, who is in second place, having dropped $100 super chat and thrown down the gauntlet for William Forbus.
Woo!
Also, Mexican Iron Man, one of our most consistent contributors. If he hasn't already dropped a super chat, he will eventually throughout the live stream. If not, I'm gonna take him off the screen.
No pressure there.
Yeah, no pressure there. But also want to give a huge shout out to all of the people who've been so generous with the gifted memberships. We have Jillian N, WG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, who's in the chat, and Eric Winberg. You guys have been so generous just throwing those gifted memberships out. It is absolutely fantastic, and kudos to you for helping to keep us going.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So enough with the housekeeping. Let's get into it. We're going to be talking about Dune Part 3. Now, Dune Part 2 just came out, and we all saw it. Some of us liked it. Some of us didn't. But you can't dismiss the fact that it is a success, and we're probably going to get a third part of the trilogy. But I want to go around and get everyone's, first of all, their take on Dune 2, and then the predictions for Dune 3, because as we have over here on the Hollywood Reporter, they're saying that Dune 3, based off of Dune Messiah, the book sucks, and the movie would probably suck if it's based on the book. So what changes are they going to make?
Wow.
Yeah, that's not me saying it. That's the Hollywood Reporter, James Hibbard.
That's what I got out of that article. Yep.
Absolute heretic. So I want to start off with the Dune expert on the panel. Was it grandmother?
Reverend Mother.
Reverend Mother herself.
Reverend Mother.
Danica, not grandmother. That's too old. DanikaXIX. So you have a fantastic series on your channel called Dune Club, which is basically, it's a book club where you read every single book in Dune. I remember going through your Dune Messiah, book club, and
Mhm.
you basically started off your first video by talking about how like Dune Messiah is widely disliked by a lot of Dune fans just because it's
Mhm.
not like the hero's journey. There's not like a whole lot of action in it, and it
Yeah.
was that was kind of like the stuff that this article was talking about.
Yeah.
So I want to get your predictions on how do you think Denis Villeneuve is going to translate Dune Messiah into the third part of his Dune trilogy?
I really don't know, and I'm stressed out about it, to be honest with you. Like, I'm a little stressed out about it because of the changes that he made in part 2. They will definitely, if he sticks with those changes, specifically the relationship between Chani and Paul, then that will really radically change what happens in Dune 3. And I would love to see Dune 3. Can I do spoilers? Am I allowed to do spoilers? I don't want to like spoil anything for anybody, but it's a book that's been out for like, I don't know, a few decades.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been out for a minute. But Dune Messiah is the saddest Dune book. You have Paul, he's set up, he gets to the top in the first book, and then in the second book it chronicles his fall, because you can only go up for so much. And it's just really sad, and it's depressing a little bit. And like, the idea that they're gonna film, I don't want to spoil this, but I'm going to spoil it. The idea that they're going to film Timothée Chalamet getting his fucking eyes burned out and having to like run around town with like fucking burned out black eyes is like incredible to me. And I'm like, how are they going to do that? How are they going to pull that off? We are definitely going to have to see a guild navigator, which are super fucking weird. And this series is very dedicated to being as least weird as possible. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to deal with that. Are they going to bring Duncan back as a Gola? Is Jason Momoa going to be able to play a Zen Sunni stoic fucking Gola man? Like, I don't know. He's not like an actor like that. So I have a lot of questions. It could be a fucking train wreck. And also too, it's like Dune Messiah, is the second book, and so they want to do a 3-part series, but really the whole saga doesn't end until Children of Dune, which is the 4th part. And so it'll be really, I don't know. It's like, you kind of, if you're going to do Dune 3, you kind of have to do, or Dune 2, Dune Messiah, sorry. If you're going to do Dune Messiah, you kind of need to do Children of Dune as well. But I don't think they're going to do that. So I really don't know. I'm stressed out. The whole thing is stressful for me. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be wild.
Dune book has like the person sandworm hybrid?
Okay, that is God Emperor Dune. That's the 4th book in the series. So that comes after Children. And there's no way they're ever going to do that. Like, I would love it. I would like die if they did.
Thing, yeah.
It's so good. And like, please bring James McAvoy back, because he was in the sci-fi series and he played Leto II. And so I would love to have him back to play God Emperor, but it's too weird. People can't handle a fucking worm man, a sandworm man. They can't handle it. It's too much. Mainstream audiences, it's not for them.
Is that what that picture is on your Twitter feed? It's like at the very top of your Twitter feed. You reposted something that looks like a half man, half worm kind of thing. So
yeah,
okay.
It gets really weird. Like, it just progressively gets weirder, but I love it. A lot of people don't. A lot of people give up after Dune. A lot of people give up after Dune, and then a lot of people give up after Dune Messiah, and then a lot of people, are like, I can't deal with God Emperor. But I think it's worth it. I like weird shit, though. I'm into it, so I love all 6 books.
One of our channel friends, Dork Knight, gifted me all the books. You can see, well, you can't really see him, but he gave me his entire Dune collection,
except
for the first book. So I have him here if I ever actually want to decide to read a book one of these days. So
and
I can send you the first one.
It was funny when Vader got to Children of Dune or Dune God Emperor, and it was like the big worm with like the face in it. He's like, is this a dick on the cover of the thing? Like, we were like, no, Vader, that's a sandworm. That's a sandworm.
It's a sandworm man hybrid.
I think
been alive.
Villeneuve, though, I think he's going to discard the books completely for Dune Messiah. I think we're going to get a movie about Chani, and she's going to get an army of Fremen lesbians together, and they're going to take down the patriarchy that is Paul.
That's
so so that's what's going to happen. Her and stupid Zendaya face and everything. It was
And Vader's an actual Zendaya fan. She makes
Yeah.
everything better for him, and even he didn't like her in this.
No,
she ruined the
yeah.
she ruined the movie. It was like,
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't ruin the movie, but she made it to where it got knocked down a grade for me for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's the weakest link.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Danica, I know that in the sci-fi series Children of Dune, they kind of combined elements of Dune Messiah and Children of Dune together. Do you think
Mhm,
Villeneuve
mhm.
might do the same thing?
That's a good question. I mean, if he's smart, but then again, how are you gonna fit all that? That's a lot to fit into one movie. But maybe he could do that because that would make more sense. Because it's like, but I don't know. God, oh, I'm so stressed out. I don't know. I'm worried about it. We'll see. But I want to see it. Like I'm down. Like I want to see what he comes up with for sure.
I just want to see a navigator. That's what I want to see.
No,
It has to happen. It has to happen, right?
give me that guild navigator. Give me
Yeah.
that fish
The
man.
mutant people from taking too much
Give
spice or
To
whatever.
me. I
Yeah.
want it. I want to see it.
Make it weird. Make it weirder.
Make Dune weird again. Okay,
Yeah.
that's my fucking political stance.
Bring Jodorowsky on as a consultant.
Right
Right
Yeah,
from
with
with
love.
with
We
love.
love. We love.
It's hilarious. It's
People
so
have
good.
no idea what we're
I'm
talking about.
I'm sure he hates. I'm sure if Jodorowsky saw it, because people have asked him, and I think he's like, "No, I haven't seen it." But I think he would hate it. I think he would hate Villeneuve's version. And I think because even though his version is batshit crazy, and if you haven't seen Jodorowsky's Dune, the documentary about his failed Dune movie, treat yourself. It's fantastic.
That's great.
It is
And
pretty
he's amazing. I love this artist. He's so cool. I really admire him a lot. And but his version is very different from the book. It's really not Dune, but at the same time, the messaging of it is very much like everybody comes together and it's like oneness, and that's his whole thing. Like he's like a very spiritual person. And I feel like Villeneuve did the opposite in this movie, like where he's like, okay, we're gonna talk about class divisions and we're gonna talk about like I don't know, just like it just makes everybody. It's the opposite, it's just more what's the term I'm looking for, where you have like two different sides and they're always fighting with each other, and it's just like bipolarized.
Okay.
Polarizing. It's very he's a very polarizing message. So I don't know, I think he would hate that, and plus there's no spirituality in it either. There's like zero spirituality.
I actually didn't like the Dune movie. Everyone was like, "How can you not like it? It's a masterpiece." And I'm like, I agree. It's a masterpiece. It looks beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful.
Mhm.
This movie is
Well,
like
we'll-
just
we'll-
an amazing looking movie, and I had no interest.
We'll get to your take in a second, Brian. But I do want to point out that in the documentary, Jodorowsky talked about how he didn't want to see Lynch's Dune because it usurped his vision. But then he
Mhm.
went and saw it, and he was like, "And I was so happy because it sucked. It was so bad."
Yeah.
It gave him life. Like, and he was just talking about how his children were like helping him to the theater. He was just like, oh, this broken man. And then he gets there, and then he's like, his life. Oh, it's so funny. He's such a hater. I love it.
Yeah, he was like, "I loved it. It was so bad. It was glorious." All right, Brian, I want to throw this to you. What was your take on Dune Part 2? And do you have any theories about how they're going to do the third part?
I do believe that if they even remotely touch the books, that we're gonna see a Timothy Chalamet with the cool looking bandage, the desert worn bandage on his eyes, struggling through the sand.
Just like
using his
Neo from
powers.
the third Matrix.
Yeah, just like
Oh,
Neo.
yeah.
Everyone
100%.
loves that. That's that visuality. He's like, oh, he has that spiritual, almost earth, supernatural powers. Yeah. But from what I've read about 3, I haven't read Dune Messiah, but from what I've gathered about it, I just did a whole documentary about it on Wednesday. Go check it out. But from what I gathered about it when I was editing the doc, was that Dune Messiah is where it starts to get real wild, and it just gets more and more wild. And I think I think you're right, Danica, because this Dune doesn't, and that's what I said about the first Dune movie, two Dune movies. It feels like they're lacking soul.
Mhm.
Like there's something missing about them. Like they're beautiful masterpiece of filmmaking and all that, but they lack something for me. And for me, it's really hard to get on board with the characters. I feel really no emotional tie to them. I don't feel anything for it. I just feel like nothing. And I'm like, this is beautiful. It's amazing. The soundtrack is awesome. And I feel nothing. And I think that you got to add a little more weird to it to start getting me to feel a little bit. Maybe the characters need to have a little more connection to each other. Zendaya really did suck in that second movie, just really bad. I had no interest in her. So if they actually do adopt some of the weirder elements and they start to, I don't know, add more soul to it, then it can revitalize the series for a lot of people. I know a lot of people feel exactly like me, but they won't say it. They'll be like, "No, it's a great movie. It's a great movie." No, it sort of sucked. Yeah, the actual filmmaking was great, but the storytelling felt dry and just sort of nothing. I don't
know if I agree with you, Brian, but that's okay.
It's okay. You don't have to.
I know, man. It's all good.
All right. Well, before we get to Vader and his take on it, I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, one of the weird things about Dune, so like when they did Dune Part 1, Warner Brothers hadn't actually greenlighted a Part 2 yet. So it was a big risk on Villeneuve's part to actually like make half of a movie essentially.
Yeah.
But with Dune, so like, is it successful enough at the box office right now to warrant a third part of the trilogy? And do you think that Warner Brothers would actually be committed to doing a Part 4 and 5 and basically go through all the books eventually?
So I would say not at this point, because even though we look at the numbers and it got very close to $400 million last weekend, it's probably going to get close to $500+ million by the end of this weekend. It is tracking very similarly in certain areas to even Oppenheimer. But I mentioned this last week that when you compared the week 2 numbers, domestic, international, altogether for Oppenheimer and this movie, Oppenheimer was about 9% ahead worldwide. So if that separation between the two continues to the very end, then that means this movie would get to around $850 million worldwide, and that would mean that the film would make a little bit of profit. The important thing to remember is that the film cost $190 million to produce, so that's not including marketing. It's making still a larger portion of its money internationally, which means smaller returns there. So based off of the charting that I typically use, as of the numbers being reported right now, and obviously we'll have an influx of new international data tomorrow, the film is still around $100 million in the red. And I think that it's really not even necessarily going to be Warner Brothers' call necessarily, because they are the distributor on it and they had a role in the production. But I believe Legendary is the one who has most of the money behind the film. And that's a whole other thing, because to me, I honestly don't know where Legendary is getting its money from, because they have been producing so many big budgeted movies and none of the films have been major box office hits.
Right.
Like they're a big part of the Monsterverse, for instance. They, of course, have been behind Dune as well. And none of them have been really big money makers, at least at the box office itself. So whether or not they would greenlight it or not, I think would depend on several things. I think Warner Brothers would probably be open, because I think they got some money from that licensing fee that they receive because they are the distributor of the film. I don't know what exactly deal they have with Legendary to know for sure exactly how monetarily that's going to work. As an individual film, though, it is still not quite there. It hasn't even, at this point, has still not even gotten to what the losses were for Dune Part 1. So just to kind of give that metric, I think it will. I think it absolutely will, even by the end of this weekend, because I do think it actually has a chance of making profits. I just don't think it's going to be as profitable as a movie because of its high budget and also because of where it's making most of its money. Also, now it's released in China, and we all know even less money gets returned back from that. What's interesting about Dune Part 2, though, and just talking about whether or not they would make a Dune Part 3 and what my thoughts on what that would be, as time has gone on, my thoughts on Dune Part 2 has actually begun to sour a lot more, because I'm kind of in that similar camp as Brian, where I think the film is stunning. I think it's a cinematic achievement. There are so many things I do love about the film. It's a film that I would want to watch again. But the story, I just keep sitting back with it, and I keep thinking about how different it is from the book. And the biggest problem from the very moment I saw it, and I mentioned this in my review, and this is still the biggest problem for me, is that change to the character of Chani. Because it wasn't even that they decided to tweak the character. What they did was they created a brand new character that has no real affiliation with the book whatsoever, and then just put her name on it. The only similarity is that she has a relationship with Paul, and that her name is Chani. Like, that's really the only thing. Like, everything about her character is different. She's a part of the religious ceremony in the book. She's completely opposite of that in the movie. She is one where it's implied, right, because of the Fremen in general, being this warrior, the warrior society, that she has some elements of that, but it's not really straight, it's not really put out there that she's supposed to be like this badass, leader warrior on the battlefield, because again, she's in this, almost hovering the two worlds of just general Fremen society, but then also she has a very specific role in that society and being involved with a lot of the religious elements. And I think a good point that was made was how this film, both part 1 and 2, really lack any spirituality whatsoever. And in fact, I think this film's even worse in that respect because it ends up mocking spirituality a lot more. Because even though I was laughing at Still Gone, right? I was laughing because I thought that Javier Bardem did such a great job in that role, like just performing that role. And I was laughing because he was like, it's like, oh yeah, he says he's not the person, but this is all just a test, right? This is all just to test our faith. But all I could think of was, okay, this just seems like an open mockery of religion now. Because I know that there's elements of that in the book, but it's never as like heavy-handed as it was in the movie, right? And so I think that that's a problem that Hollywood has in general, is that they don't want to give really any importance to or focus on spiritual elements. We saw this happen especially with that adaptation of Wrinkle in Time, right? That film, that's a very different situation because that's a book that's rooted in Christianity. Like that's at the heart of that movie, and then they just try to strip it away, and it's like, okay, that's soulless. Whereas with this film, even though it doesn't have that same, it's not rooted in Christianity at all, it still has a lot of religious symbolism in it, and it's not nearly as in your face about mocking it as the movie does. And because the box office is not really doing that well, like just based on its budget, based on where its numbers are right now, and because based on that ending, when you end with Chani, right, that was the last shot of the movie. Yeah. That is him showing his hand of, yep, she's going to be the focus in the next book. And so I think that you're right. I forgot who mentioned it. Yeah, saying that they're going to change it. It's just going to be almost their own thing. Because it's like, yeah, it makes sense. When you end on a character that you've just just completely made out of thin air and then just put her name on it. If that's what you're ending your movie on, guess what? That's where we're going to be going in the future too. Yeah, is on this made up character. So it's going to be a made up story that has some very small ties, and I don't think it's going to be made financially, but who knows?
Well, yeah. What's interesting there, Odin, is that big thing has been made over the course of years about how J.R.R. Tolkien really didn't like Dune. And it's specifically because, like in Dune, religion's a manufactured way to control a populace. It's not like actual real like religion. It's all manufactured. And Herbert's whole thing was that the Messiah or the great leader or something like that is not someone to be celebrated. It's someone to be distrustful of. And it in a weird way, it's very nihilistic. In terms of like how it views like leadership and spirituality and stuff like that. Yeah. So
well, it's so different from like the Star Trek future where humanity has like gotten really mature and like we figured it out. We kind of stopped fighting with each other. At least Gene Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek is that. Whatever. But with Frank Herbert, it's not that. It's like humanity is humanity, and he was a humanist. Like he was interested in humans and what humans are able to do, and that's why in his books there is no technology. Like humans had to figure out how to do all this stuff without computers, which I love. I love that concept a lot. But yeah, it's so this whole thing is just so disconcerting, this Dune 3 situation. I don't know. Throw it back to one of you guys. I had some thoughts, but I'm still chewing on it for a minute. I'm like,
but before we go ahead, Odin.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, because at least in the book, though, getting back to that aspect of like spirituality and religion being used, there is still some spirituality in the book, because throughout the entire book, you have Paul having this vision of his terrible purpose. So he's clearly seeing the future. And so there's that element, right, of this almost mystical sense to who he is and how he knows how certain things are going to happen and all this stuff. And so like that seems to indicate that, yes, there is this man-made religion around the Fremen, but it's all rooted in what the Bene Gesserit actually do believe. So it's still a real religion. It's just that they have obviously affected these people. It's almost like they extended it out to these people as well.
Yeah,
in a certain extent. The movie doesn't really do that as much, I think.
There's thinking about the Christianity part of it and stuff, and it's like there is actually like a Christian theme, and not to say that he's a Christian or he's putting that thing in there, but like something that I've seen is that Paul, to me, is very much like an antichrist figure in that back in the day, 2000 years ago, the Jewish people, they were Rome had taken over Israel and they wanted their land back, and there was a Messiah that they were praying for that was going to come back like David and help them get their fucking land back and like fuck the Romans. And so Jesus popped up and was like, hey guys, like, I don't know, I'm not a warrior, like you should love one another. And they were like, oh, that's not what we were hoping for. And Paul's like the opposite with the Fremen. Like it's the same exact situation, but Paul's like, no, I'll help you get your land back. Like we're gonna get it back. Like we're gonna fuck it up, dog.
Yeah.
And then, but then his son, who becomes the God Emperor, he has a very like he becomes Christ, where he is crucified in a fucking worm body for thousands of years. Okay, it's a terrible life, but he sacrifices this and carries this burden so that he can put humanity on the golden path. So I feel like, you know, there is some Christian themes in it. It's not entirely devoid of any of those type of things.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the Zealots, those were the groups of the Jews that had a vision of a militaristic Messiah. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that basically, you know, his son becomes kind of like the Christ-like figure, whereas for him, he becomes the Zealots' image of what the Messiah was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how I think Frank Herbert kind of layered in a lot of Islamic belief systems and imagery and stuff like that. And I think that at the time he was writing it, he's like, nobody's going to know anything about Islam in the future. It's like, you know, it's like humanity is just like blissfully ignorant about
It
that
would be
stuff.
interesting. It will be interesting to see how religion evolves over the next couple thousand years. I mean, who knows what it'll look like, but I'm sure it'll change, you know. So who knows?
So Vader, what's your take on Dune 2? And do you have any predictions on how Dune 3 is going to turn?
Dude, I'm so upset right now because I learned last night watching Danika's review that there's supposed to be a spice-induced drug orgy in this film, and I really kind of want to see that now. And I'm gonna have to mark it down another half star for no. No orgy scene.
No spice orgy.
And Godin's shaking his head at me. I know, dude. I'm a heathen. I get it. I understand.
Well, but, you know, I'm a pervert. I wanted to see it.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were going to do it, but I was like, please.
I'm a huge perv. Put it in the 8-hour director's cut. With love. No, I said this on a review that we did in the studio that I think I might get a 3.5 star rating for this movie. I think it's a gorgeous movie. Don't get me wrong. It's an absolutely beautiful movie. I've never read the books, so I don't have anything to compare it to other than the other movies that I've watched and the documentaries and your guys' all of your opinions, which I highly respect. But visually, that's how I rate a lot of my movies. This thing is a feast for your eyeballs. And I really like Villeneuve's style when it comes to this kind of thing. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful movie. So I have to take away points because I just cannot stand Chani in this movie. It's her. I feel like he's just completely going away from the character that we know of her from the other iterations of these movies that were out there. And I'm stammering again, but it didn't make any sense to me. And especially like the end, like Odin said, when would they end the movie on her bitch face staring out into the into the dunes because she's pissed off at Paul. It's like, what does that say about where he's taking the next movie? You know, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, she's supposed to have a child with this guy, right? And she's supposed to be there at his side. She's his loving concubine, right? For the future, you know. And he has this marriage of necessity, basically. With
they dropped that whole thing.
Yeah, and it's all gone.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, they didn't have his little sister in there. They made that super weird with her in the womb and the way they sped the time frame up. Or did they just cut 2 years of the movie out or whatever? And because she was never born. How do they do that? You know, it's just there's a lot of weird changes in this movie that I thought were strange. But you know, if you take all that out, I still enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. Had a good time with it. I liked part 1 much better. Yeah. You know, when part 1 was up, I said a few weeks ago, I go, this might if part 2 is good, it might break into my top 10 movies of all time. But it got knocked way down the list when part 2 came out. So
yeah, the
it is
stuff.
It is nice to have a complete movie now.
Mhm.
You know, because I need to rewatch both movies together as one to get like a better perspective, I think, because I've only seen this movie one time so far. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you know what really annoyed Jude, my wife, about this movie, and it's something that only the sci-fi miniseries has done, but they didn't really do it right,
Mhm.
is the dinner scene.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like she's been wanting to see that dinner scene from the book translated into the
Mhm.
movies for years, and she was really hoping that we'd get it in the first part of Dune, but unfortunately we didn't. But so like that was her big issue. The second issue that I think we can all agree on is Christopher Walken.
Oh,
So
I'm walking.
I was ambivalent to that.
Oh my God.
no, I love Walken, but he's Walken in every role that he does.
Yeah.
And so when he's emperor and he's sitting there and he's like, Baron, 2 mice fall into a vat of cream. You know, like it's just like it's weird, like because every time he spoke, like I know he's supposed to be the emperor and he's supposed to have this gravitas and this danger and this edge to him, but I like everyone in the because I was in a packed theater, you know, like I'm actually surprised that this, according to Odin, it's not making more money because theater was sold out, but everyone in the theater was just like kind of giggling every time he opened his mouth. So Danica, I wanted to throw it to you. Like, what did you think of Walken as the emperor, and also why no dinner scene? Why do movies just reject the dinner scene?
Yeah. Okay. So when they cast Walken originally, I was like, what? Like, because I love Christopher Walken. I think he's a wonderful person. I love him in movies. I watch his shit all the time. He is Christopher Walken, you know, like Jason Momoa is Jason Momoa. Like I'm me, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's some of us that just like, oh, you're just who you are and you're so lovable that people like you and you can be in all these different things. And like I was just like, this is a terrible casting. This is going to be awful. And it was. It was just like, I don't get it. I don't know why they put him in that role. I wish I knew the reason, like why they cast him, because I was like, that is not it. And it was so funny. I'm like a meme queen. And the Dune memes, by the way, one thing about this movie that I love is that I have never seen so many fucking Dune memes in my entire life, and I fucking love it and keep them coming. Like, it makes me so fucking happy that this movie is in the zeitgeist and then the meme zeitgeist, and like I'm just getting like the gift of all this moisture. Like, I love it. But I saw this really funny meme, and it had a picture of him as the emperor, and it says, "Your father's smoke was too tough. His swag was too different, and his bitch was too bad." You know, it's just like, yes, like so funny. I was like sitting at my friend Johnny C. But yeah, terrible casting. Love him though, and also the emperor shouldn't actually be that old. He is older, but he takes the spice, and so because of the spice, he looks like he's in his 40s, even though he's like, I don't know, in his 80s or in his whatever, you know, he's I don't think it's ever, you know exactly how old he is. But as far as the dinner scene, so this Dune needs to be a series because it is so fucking dense, and it needs to be like some fucking Game of Thrones legacy series, and they need more time, and they never have enough time. And there's just like, it's so nuanced too. And that's the thing too. Villeneuve has said specifically he doesn't love dialogue. He's like more about the picture and the feeling and all that.
Very clear.
And I understand that, and I'm not saying that he's wrong. You know, we all have our own things, but the dinner scene is nuanced dialogue, and he doesn't really like that. And so I feel like that's probably also why it got cut. But I just pray that in a couple decades or something, like hopefully, God willing, I'm still alive, and somebody turns this into a fucking show, and we can finally get all the cool shit, because you just can't make this into a movie. It just doesn't fit into a movie.
Yeah, some books require miniseries, 100%.
Yeah, it's very much like Game of Thrones in that respect. Like, you know, Game of Thrones couldn't have been a movie,
right?
But I wanted to ask Odin and Brian, have you guys heard anything new about the Dune series, the Dune Sisterhood, about the Bene Gesserit and stuff like that is going to be a Max original?
Not me.
No, I haven't heard nothing.
You haven't heard anything about that?
Uh-uh.
Okay.
It's
Danica,
called
have you
Dune
heard about that?
Prophecy now. It's called Dune
Oh,
Prophecy.
they changed it again.
They changed it again. I've heard nothing but terrible things about it. Everything that I've heard about it makes it sound like a fucking disaster. Before it was the Dune Sisterhood, and it was supposed to be about the origins of the Bene Gesserit and where they came from. Like, fucking who cares?
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. You want to see them before they get their cool powers? No. Who wants to see that? That's a
No
terrible
one.
idea.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see that. And so I have no fucking clue what Dune Prophecy is going to be. Maybe it's showing the Bene Gesserit seeding religions with their Missionaria Protectiva. I don't fucking know, but the whole thing sounds like garbage. Like I'm very worried about this whole production.
It's gonna be
I
like,
mean,
it'll be like
So here's
Dune
one
the
fact.
Acolyte.
One fact I found, which should be worrying, and it's modern day Hollywood. So the showrunner, the creator of the series, Diane Ademu John, she has basically no credits to her name. She has never, let's see, she has written various things like an episode of Crossing Jordan, of Medium, 14 episodes of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. She wrote 19 episodes of, or was an executive producer on Empire for 19 episodes or something like that.
You know, Odin, that's a better resume than the guys who are running the Rings of Power have. So
True.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it seems like, based off of the choice there, I would not be surprised if it becomes very, very, very political.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask this of Danica before we move on. Why are they doing something like this instead of like a tie-in series about the Butlerian Jihad or something that could be like really, really epic?
Oh my God, I don't fucking know. It's so obvious. It's right there. We've got AI on the rise. It's freaking everybody out. We're all terrified of this new power that's like burgeoning in our real world. And the Butlerian Jihad specifically talks about that moment where humanity rejected technology. And like it would be so fucking relevant right now. It makes no sense to me because like there's this Dune quote that I think about a lot. And it states that once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hopes that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. And it's just like, whoo, that is 100% what's going on right now. Like, God damn, Frank Herbert, you fucking called it out. Like from the 60s, bro. Like shit, before the internet was even a thing. Like he saw where this was going to go. So yeah, this is such a huge fucking disaster. I wish they would just pull the whole thing, but I think they're too deep in it now.
That's true. But I'm always amazed at Hollywood at how like there's blatantly good ideas that they should be using, and they're like, nah, we're gonna go with these bad ideas that nobody wants.
Yeah, we're
You know
going with
what
the
I
bad ones.
And that's why they're dying. Like, and that's why the industry's dying. You know, it's just like they're killing themselves. I mean, I live in LA. Like, I see it. Like, the industry is shrinking. Like with the internet and with TikTok and YouTube and all this other shit. Like, the island is getting smaller, which I think isn't necessarily a bad thing because then you're going to get rid of a lot of the dead weight because there's a lot of people who work in the industry who are not talented. And they're pieces of shit and they're uncreative and they need to go. And so hopefully maybe there'll be a culling and the people who actually like have more talent and ideas are going to be the ones that stay on the island. And then we'll hopefully get better productions. But right now, like what they're doing is suicidal. I mean, it's just like, it's insane. It's insane to me watching. But at the same time, for me as an independent, it's great for me. Go ahead, go fuck yourself. Like, you know, then people like me and you and everybody else can like, we can make our own shit and then people, you know, will come to us. So it's like, whatever, do whatever you want, destroy yourself. Okay.
I like that word.
Yes,
There's going to be a culling in Hollywood. That's I like it. Cull away.
Yeah, Vader likes everything very grimdark and
That's
violent.
yes.
Like his Viking ancestry. All right, guys. So real quick, just want to acknowledge GJJ, who's been a member for 8 months.
Nice.
Woo!
Thanks.
Thank you for your membership, GJJ. Really appreciate that. All right, guys. So speaking of Hollywood destroying itself, we got another story here that just boggles my mind, and that is James Gunn is confusing the hell out of DC Comics fans.
This is new?
Well, it came up to a different level, Odin, is what I'll say. All right. So we have the story from Comic Book Movie, but I actually saw this in real time on threads and Twitter and stuff. Where basically James Gunn publicly came out and answered a fan's question where he basically said that Peacemaker season 1 is not canon and that Peacemaker season 2 will be canon and it will take place after Superman. But then fans of the Peacemaker season 1 started asking him questions, and he's like, well, certain parts of season 1 are canon, but other parts mostly aren't.
What?
And so everyone's like, how does that work exactly? So will parts of season 1 of Peacemaker be in Superman? And he's like, no.
No.
Yeah. Basically, this has thrown everyone into a bit of a tizzy. They don't know what's going on with the DCU. They don't know what's going on with Superman. They also don't know what's going on with Batman because the Pattinson sequel has gotten pushed back a year, but it's still going forward. And they're like, well, how's that going to work with your Batman? He's like, don't worry about it. You know, it's going to be fine. And
Sure.
I have a lot of faith in James Gunn as a storyteller. I think he's a great writer. I've liked pretty much every movie of his that I've seen. But the way that he rolled out his version of the DC universe, which basically sabotaged Aquaman, The Flash, and Blue Beetle before they ever came out. And now, you know, he's getting to make his Superman, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you know, you're doing your version of Superman, but then like, you know, is Suicide Squad still canon? You know, if not, what elements of that are you carrying over? Like, it seems to me like it would have been a better strategy to essentially, you know, do like a Crisis on Infinite Earth things where you end the Snyderverse and then you start fresh with like something completely new. But you know, Danica, formerly known as Comic Book Girl 19, you were an expert on all this stuff. I want to get your take on this. Why is James Gunn fucking with DC fans so much?
I mean, the DCEU has been a fucking mess from the get-go. It has always been a mess to me, and it continues to be a mess. So I just feel like this is on par with everything that they've done. And it's so funny to me because I just feel like there is a lot of superhero fatigue, and not because superhero stories aren't interesting, but because the movies that they're making are formulaic and boring, and people are over it. They're done with it. And so it's interesting to me to be like, I mean, they keep trying to make it happen, and it's just like, you'll never have a cohesive universe. Let it go. Just, I guess, make whatever good movies you can make. But they're going to try again. And it's like, you're going to try to make a cohesive superhero connected universe when we're hitting peak levels of like superhero fatigue and people just like aren't interested anymore. Like, good luck, fellas. Like, I don't know. Good luck to him. It sounds like a fucking total shit show. But again, it's been a total shit show this whole time. So I'm not shocked or surprised.
Well, Brian, as the comic book expert on the panel, because you run a DC, you know, YouTube channel,
Sure.
and that's enough to call you an expert.
That's
Hell
right.
yeah.
What, like, the fan reaction to this, like, everyone was just like, what the hell are you talking about, James Gunn? Like, why can't he, number one, you know, just put out some type of like clear explanation as to what he's doing?
Right.
And number two, how do you think that this is going to affect people who were looking forward to season 2 of Peacemaker? You know, like, are they going to have to watch Superman first before they understand what's going on?
I don't think so. I think that I think this really was worded poorly. I think what they were trying to say, but they got really overly complicated with it, was this is like the Peacemaker character, the relationships, the characters in the first season are all part of the canon, but the story that was told in season 1 is not. What further made it confusing when he was like, and everything after episode 2 of season 2 will also, everything after episode 3 of season 2 will also be canon. You're like, okay. It's just confusing. I think he wants to keep the characters and the actors and all that, but he also wants to keep doing Peacemaker, but he doesn't want to deal with any connection to the old DCU that was set forth in season 1. And so this roundabout way of confusingly trying to explain his desire to continue keeping his, his favorite characters and his wife or whatever is in it too. He wants to keep his Peacemaker series, so he's got to like convolute the message. When in reality, you could just say like, "Hey, we're doing Peacemaker, but nothing that happened before is part of this universe." It could have been that easy. But no, yeah, they convoluted it a little. People are like, "What are you talking about, bud? What are you doing?" But that's what it is. I think they're keeping the characters, the relationships, the general, character traits. But the story that was told is not a part of canon.
But fans have asked him straight up. He's like, "Does that mean that Randall Flagg and the Peacemaker's father never died? Are they still alive in the new DCU?" And he just doesn't have an answer for them.
Yeah, I don't think he's done writing it yet, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he knows yet.
Yeah. I mean, consider this for a minute. What if like season 2 literally just opened up with like Peacemaker waking up from a dream in a prison cell? I mean,
oh god,
you can just make it all a dream and then continue from there.
Bob Newhart, that shit.
A really cool way of going. Don't even say a word. Don't say it's canon or not canon. Just have him wake up from a dream and then continue your story.
Whoa, that was really weird.
Whoa,
my god,
that was a wild, dude. Oh man,
I had this dream that I was naked on the stage.
In my head, bro.
I had this dream that I was naked on the stage at the Oscar Awards.
It
was
feels
crazy.
cheap, right? But then, like, I guess also trying to like completely ignore an entire season of television because of the politics behind the scenes is also sort of cheap. So that's what I would do.
I kind of wish that's what they would do with Star Wars, actually. But I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, I think that James Gunn kind of announcing his plans for DC last year really negatively impacted a lot of the stuff that Warner Brothers had coming out for the DC slate. Like if they had just kept it kind of, ambiguous as to like, what's carrying over, what's not, stuff like that, then people might have actually turned out more for, the Flash and Aquaman and Blue Beetle and things of that nature. So I wanted to ask you, like, how do you think James Gunn has affected the box office health of, the DC universe going forward? And do you think that there's a chance for him to turn it around?
Well, I've never been that fond of James Gunn, to be honest. Obviously, I do like Guardians 1 is still, to me, one of the best comic book adaptations or just comic book movies that's ever been made. It still has a very special place in my heart. I still enjoy it quite a bit. But then I look at a lot of his other work, and a lot of his other work has fell flat for me quite a bit. The Suicide Squad film, I hated it. The Peacemaker series, I thought it was a waste of my time. There are just so many elements there. And so when I heard that he was being chosen to be the head of this new venture with the DC universe, I thought, okay, there's a small amount of potential if he's able to kind of return to form, be able to bring back the same magic from really the first of the Guardians films and be able to try to find a way to make things work in that capacity, then I think, okay, that could have happened. But right now we've seen pretty much the exact opposite, right? He has gone against, the very, in terms of box office, the DC fan base is much smaller, we should say, rather than like what the former MCU fan base used to be, or a lot of these other ones, right? It's actually a much smaller fan base, and the box office has always kind of indicated that, right? They don't have several billion-dollar films in their belt, and even the bigger films that they did have, some of their bigger properties, bigger names, didn't do as big as you would think that those types of properties and those kinds of stories should make. And so because you have that going on, you also have, of course, people are a lot more wary about what kinds of movies they want to actually go out and see and pay money for. People are being a lot more careful with their money. I think that by driving away the hardcore fans that you do already have, you are already setting yourself up for failure, because those are the ones that are typically the showing up on the opening night, seeing a movie multiple times. And so if you're not going to even pay respect to what came before for them, even though I might agree with a more, negative approach to what came before, you're going to be losing part of that core audience that you kind of need to be able to placate, to be able to to make happy. But also this kind of conversation, it just honestly seems like he's very confused about all this stuff too. He's trying to split the baby, right? He's trying to have it both ways. He's trying to do everything that he can to be correct on everything and basically to come across as like the smartest person in the room. But in reality, it's just making him come across as, I don't know if this is going to be a good choice for whoever's bringing this, the story going forward. So I don't have a lot of high hopes for it whatsoever. The Superman, I think the casting has been decent from what I've been seeing, but anything DC related, I honestly will say Snyder did also a lot of damage, because though Snyder had his hardcore fans, and now those are the ones that are kind of getting, ticked off by a lot of this stuff, he also drove a lot of regular, normal people away, people like me, through his movies, because Man of Steel, I thought, that's okay, and then once I got to Batman v Superman, I'm like, okay, I'm out. I was like, this is garbage. I can't stand this dark approach, and it's just not good filmmaking either. It's just not good writing, and so I think he pushed so many people away. So Gunn is in a very precarious situation, because he has got to get people back who may have been interested in the very beginning, who were lost because they were over Snyder, and then you have to also somehow find a way to keep the hardcore Snyder fan base, because it is still a very powerful one.
People got to get over the Snyder stuff, man. He's done. He's not making any more DC movies. I mean, the Snyder cult needs to, go pack a lunch and go be a cult about something else. Go stay in his fake Star Wars movies that are coming out on Netflix. Whatever.
You mean the Snyder bot army?
Yeah,
more appropriate.
Talk about cultists. My God.
Yeah. The few actual true cultists. They're few and far in between. I think they're a much smaller number than we were led to believe.
Yeah.
But before we get to your take on this, Vader, I wanted to ask Danika. So one of the big things that James Gunn did early on that really upset not only the Snyder cultists, but also pretty much every heterosexual woman in America, and even some bisexual women, Henry Cavill was not returning as Superman, and that instantly just set everyone off on like the wrong foot with what. And what was your take on it? Do you think that was a strategic blunder on his part not to bring back Cavill, especially after they announced that he was coming back?
God, I just feel so bad for Henry Cavill, because he is such a sweet muffin, and he fucking cares so much. Like, he legitimately gives a shit. And he's a fantastic Superman casting. And they never gave him anything worth a shit to do. Like, they just wasted him. And now you have an opportunity to bring him back. And we all all the ladies love Henry Cavill Superman. And you're not going to do that. And like, this guy just gets fucked like left and right. I mean, he even got like, I don't know what happened with The Witcher, but I know that they were like, oh, it's annoying because he like read the books and cares, or whatever. And you're just like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, get out of here. Like, that's what we love. That's what we love about him, because he is a legit nerd. Like, he is one of us. And except he's just giant built and looks ridiculous. And so I just feel so bad for him. Like, I don't know why he gets fucked all the time, because he just seems like such a genuinely nice, wonderful, talented, caring person.
I don't need Henry Cavill to come back as Superman. I want Henry Cavill to go out and kill it with his Warhammer 40K stuff that he's working on.
Yeah.
I want to see him in the Highlander remake. Have him make some more spy type movies. We're not going to have a lack of Cavill in the future. We're just not going to see him in
Cavill James Bond. That's all I want to see.
I would love to see that. That'd be great. He is one of us, but I think he's also a big enough nerd to where he's going to enjoy doing other nerd type things, and we just simply don't need him as Superman. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is my favorite Superman since Christopher Reeve, but it was too dark. It was too dark of a take for me, and the more I stew on Snyder's DC universe, the less and less I like it all the time.
Well, Vader, I wanted to ask you. So James Gunn. Sorry. So like he's had a lot of fans are like asking like, okay, where's the Trinity? Where's the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman pillars upon which the universe is built? And so like we're gonna get to a article hopefully a little bit later on in the show, where basically Patty Jenkins, now that James Gunn basically said there is not going to be another Wonder Woman movie, she has been released, and now she's going to go back to Lucasfilm to do like the Rogue Squadron movie that they canned, a couple years back. So like, and the whole thing with the Battinson Batman, the Batman Part 2 or whatever they're calling it. It just seems like there's all these things in play that fans are just like what the hell is going on? And if Gunn doesn't have like a real solid plan for like the core trinity of the DC universe, and they're giving us Blue Beetle and Booster Gold and all these like smaller characters.
Those things were set before the Gunn stuff ever took over, right? I mean, the Blue Beetle and the new Aquaman movie and the Flash, those movies were dead on arrival. We all knew that was going to happen. I mean, nobody was going to go watch those movies because we didn't need to. They announced long before they
the
came
head
out
of the
that
studio
these
was
movies
like, these don't matter.
Yeah, it's like, okay. And I wasn't going to go watch The Flash at the theater anyway because I can't stand that freak who starred in it. I'm just not going to give him my money. So, I mean, in the Blue Beetle thing, they lost me with their marketing. It's just, I had no interest in those movies. Blue Beetle was he's a D grade hero. It's like what Marvel's doing. They're giving us movies for characters that nobody cares about. It's just the way it is. Give us movies for characters like you said, like Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. Put some of these other characters in there, but you got to have your Trinity, and that is for sure. But I think we need to give James Gunn time to develop his own Trinity.
Yeah,
Superman's first.
Yeah, Superman's first.
Right.
The Batman stuff with Battinson, that's an Elseworlds thing. That's a separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a problem with that. Make 3 movies in that weird separate Batman world. Same thing with the adult Joker and Lady Gaga movie. It's like I don't have any issues in my mind separating those from everything else.
Yeah, they're so different.
So and if my primitive primate brain can do it, I know there's a lot of smart nerds out there that can do it as well, and they just like to bitch about stuff because how can we put these things together? Well, you don't have to. You're not supposed to put it together.
Right? You don't have to.
They're
different.
Separate. They're separate.
Right.
So
and it's obvious they're separate.
It's not a hard concept, people. It really
right.
isn't.
Well, and they even do that in comics. I mean, it's like you have different like Elseworlds or like things that are just not canon that it's just a fun story that people pursue. So it's like what ifs and all sorts of shit. So it's like, it's fine. Like the ship sailed so long ago on them having a cohesive fucking universe. Like just embrace what you got and just make good, weird movies that are one-offs. They don't have to connect, or some of them can, but you don't need to make a whole thing that works together.
The hints are all there. Like James Gunn is making a Kingdom Come version of Superman.
Yeah.
And Kingdom Come was not connected to the greater whole at the time. Like that was a big long series on its own. Nothing wrong with that. It's this comic book right here. It's a lot of people love that comic book, that series. And it's very clear that he is doing a version of that. Like he's drawing a lot of inspiration from that. Like even the crest is pretty much that crest. So that's great. Let's go with that. That universe was never really fleshed out. Like we only ever saw the very end of that universe. So you can start with that universe. Start with the very beginning of that universe. Start with Superman, and then slowly bring in your other characters. Bring in Wonder Woman. Bring in Batman. You can bring in the Trinity, but you got to start with Superman. I like the fact that they're starting with Superman.
He's the heart.
They should. He's the heart. Yeah.
He's the heart. Batman's the brain.
I want to ask Odin, Brian basically spelled out what James Gunn's strategy is, but do you think normies who aren't reading Hollywood Reporter or watching streams like this are going to know why are there 2 different Batman movies out at the same time? Like are normies going to tune into this and be aware of what's going on, or are they just going to be confused?
Honestly, at this point, I think it's just going to be confusing, because you have also not just things coming out at the same time, but then historically you have to realize that it hasn't been that long really since the previous iterations either. So it honestly, I think, is going to cause so much more confusion, and that's going to lead to that sense of apathy, because it's like, oh, we're gonna have another one of these, another Superman movie, or this or that, and like, so I think that you're gonna have, again, there's so many different camps that I think are going to be impacted by this, as I said. So you're gonna have the as I said, the Snyderverse fans are going to be already upset because they just can't let things go, but then you also are gonna have just the normies, like people like me, who was interested initially, but now, since obviously I'm paying attention to this stuff, I'm thinking, yeah, I just have no interest in this anymore. I want you to take an actual hard break, like 5-10 years, like no plan, like no vocal planning at all. Like, I don't want to hear, oh yeah, we're filming this, we're starting to film this. It's like, no, 5 years. Just put that on ice and just say, all right, what can we actually do? Because it might seem like a long time, but if you do it right, guess what? You can set up yourself an entire universe. Because the MCU, think about how that was set up and planned. They screwed it up. That should still be making money, but they lost the plot, right?
Yeah.
They clearly went off of their brand, off calculation, and now they're paying for it. Whereas Snyderverse and now just general DC universe has never really gotten off the ground. And so it's like they were about to get off the ground, maybe we're up a little bit, and then just crashed. And so and they haven't been able to recover. So they need to have that rebuild, just like the MCU now too has to have a rebuild as well. It goes for both of them.
It's what, 2024. Man of Steel came out in 2013.
Wow, fuck.
I mean, we've had a decade of break since that movie came out. Justice League is 2017, and they still have to make these movies. We're not going to see these movies right until what, 2026, probably 2027. We'll have had almost a decade break.
Yeah, we're gonna have legacy
when these movies come out and these other ones come out.
Snyder Cut came out not too long ago.
Yeah, Snyder Cut's it's separate thing, man. That was a passion project. Snyder Cult just got to get over that shit, dude.
I mean it's been a while since we've seen Man of Steel. So
all right, guys. So we got some super chats we need to get to real quick. Want to give a big shout out to Mexican Iron Man for $10. As a lifelong DC Comics fan, I am never confused by Warner Brothers DC movies. Why? Because I never know whether, when, or how bad or good any DC movie will be. Warner Brothers is literally comic book movie casino. And this is coming from a reformed Snyder bro.
Real. That's a real take, yeah.
Yeah. You never know until you get it, right? And Mexican Iron Man, member of the membership for 12 months, a whole year. P.S. Thanks for letting me host last week with Vader. It was an awesome experience for a non-YouTuber like me. Yeah. Hashtag cancel Mexican Iron Guy. Well, you are Mr. Cancel Mexican Iron Guy to me.
That's right.
And always will be, Mikey. And then we got Def Row, a member for 13 months. He actually beats out Mexican Iron Man as a member of the channel.
One of our first guys.
Yeah. Anime live action will eclipse comic live action.
Interesting take. I love anime. I fucking love anime, dude. But they need. This is what's so crazy to me. That's so like, you have everything right there. You don't need to like fuck with it. Like, just take what the anime is or the manga is, and then translate that to the screen, and that's it. That's all you have to do.
Yep.
But Hollywood always does that thing where they're like, oh, we're gonna make it our own. We're gonna tweak this and we're gonna twist that, and then it's like, you're just fucking it up. Like, it's right there. You don't have to do anything. It's already made. You don't need to reinvent the fucking wheel, motherfucker.
Danica,
so frustrating.
Did you like the Alita movie?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Oh God, I had an existential crisis watching that movie. I had that movie freaked me out, man. I did not like that movie. Okay. No, I don't know. I need to watch it again because I was also like going through a weird breakup thing, and like I was just like, don't give him your magical heart. Like, what are you doing? Like, I made that mistake. Like, don't do it. So I was like having some weird.
I didn't like it at first, then I slowly began to like it. I like it now.
I loved it. Yeah.
I need to give it another day in court because I was like going through some shit when I watched it. So I was attaching my own personal bullshit on there. So I need to give it another day in court. But there really hasn't been like, is there a good anime adaptation that's live action? Is there?
One Piece was pretty good.
Okay, One Piece. Okay, I saw a couple of episodes of that, but I never.
Great.
Yeah, everyone talks like that one worked out really well, but every other one that's been created, I mean, the new Avatar one came out, and not that that's anime. I mean, it is American animation, but it is it's a similar vibe. But they fucked that up.
Dragon Ball Evolution.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Not to say
Danica,
it's not possible though. It's possible. You could do it. You just have to just make the thing. That's it.
yeah, Danica, have you seen Blue-Eyed Samurai by any chance?
Oh man.
I saw the first episode and the animation is so beautiful. And I know it's a Canadian production, so it's not a Japanese production, but it's fantastic. I mean, I didn't keep watching that because I was just like, revenge, you know. I don't know. I'm just like not on that revenge tip.
You need to watch the whole
It's
thing.
the first animated thing I've watched on Netflix in ages to where I didn't want to push stop.
Yeah. I need to get
I-
back on it.
It's like,
It's a really
should
good show.
I call out of work today so I can finish the next 4 episodes?
Yeah.
Probably not. But that's kind of that's how good it was to me. I love that show.
Mhm.
If you
Mhm.
haven't
Yeah,
seen it yet, everybody should
overrated.
check it out.
It's
Oh,
basically if Akira Kurosawa was Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, they
That's
keep
how I describe it.
they keep threatening to make an Akira live action movie, and I just pray to God every day. It's like, please don't ever let that see the light of day. Whatever it is, it's going to offend me,
Do
and
it.
I don't want it. I don't want it. Please
it.
don't.
It'd be like
Please.
the Ghost in the Shell live action with Scarlett Johansson.
Ugh, I mean, if it wasn't Ghost in the Shell, like if you just made a weird movie and I don't know, like if you just took all the Ghost in the Shell out of it and just kind of ripped off Ghost in the Shell but made your own thing, then I would like that movie. But as a Ghost in the Shell movie, no, it doesn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Well, speaking of Akira, we're going to talk about this again at the end of the show. But Danica, do you want to tell people about your Kickstarter for your documentary?
Oh, yes. So I am directing my first full-length feature documentary this year, and it's tentatively titled Akira, the documentary. And I did a Kickstarter last fall that was successful. And I also just recently got my investor. I have my investor agreement signed, sealed, delivered. And so we've got some real funding for this film. I'm very, very excited about it. I've hired a director of photography. My friend Brenton is going to come on, and I'm just so excited. I had a big meeting with my investor yesterday about picking the bank account that we need, and then which credit card are we going to get for the movie. So I'm stuck in like business hell of having to produce the film and do the production, like business part of it, which is my least favorite part of it, but I'm very glad that I'm able to do it. But I'm looking forward to getting into the creative stuff, and hopefully we'll be shooting, sometime this summer and into the fall. But really it's the story of bringing Akira, the animated movie, to America and how it influenced, Western pop culture, made anime cool in the West, and everything that kind of came after it. I mean, it was just such a huge, iconic film that really changed the game and influenced pop culture in such a massive way around the world.
Fantastic.
Link is in the chat.
Yeah, link is in the chat for the Kickstarter. Okay, guys. So speaking of creatives, we're going to talk about the X-Men 97 controversy that's been brewing lately. And I think it's kismet because we have the foremost expert on X-Men comics on the panel today. But just to give you guys some background for those of you who don't know, so X-Men 97 is a sequel to the 1990s animated X-Men show. And it basically picks up where the animated series left off. And people really give the animated series a lot of props because, number one, it introduced a whole generation to the X-Men. And number two, it kind of set the stage for the Bryan Singer movies to make them such a hit because all the kids who like the cartoon would then go watch the movies. And there's been basically a resurgence of this for Disney Plus, where basically they're going to be doing like at least 3 seasons of continuation of the X-Men cartoon. And it was kind of spearheaded by this gentleman named Beau DeMayo. And Beau DeMayo was the showrunner and lead writer for the X-Men 97 Rebirth. I believe he wrote every episode of the first season, and then he ran a writer's room for the second season. But just recently, right before the premiere of the X-Men 97 show, Disney fired him, like just out of the blue. And normally, like when you get fired from something, it's like, okay, it sucks. It's not a big deal. But in addition to getting fired, he immediately took down all of his social media stuff, which is a big red flag if you know anything about Hollywood, because he was going radio silent. He didn't want anything that, people pouring through his past posts or whatever. So that was the thing that kind of gave me the indication that there's actually something kind of crazy going on here with his firing.
Mhm.
And for those of you who don't know, so there are a couple things that I need to tell you about Beau DeMayo before we get into some of the theories about why he was fired. The first of which is that he was one of the writers on The Witcher, and he famously talked about how in the writer's room, this is the guy who basically spilled the beans about the writer's room laughing about the books and not having any respect for the canon.
Mhm.
And he was also one of the early screenwriters for the Blade movie, which is the one where Blade was replaced by like his daughter, essentially, or like whatever the
Mhm.
case was. So this guy has like kind of like a weird track record of just making odd decisions when it comes to the projects that he's working on. But in addition to this, he also ran a non-erotic OnlyFans,
Mhm.
where basically, so he's gay and he's black, and on his OnlyFans, he would basically just post what they call thirst pics, which is just like him, like
Yeah,
flexing
thirst traps. Yeah.
just flexing his muscles, like showing off for all like the men and women who are into gay men and stuff like that.
Just like that. You got it.
And this is something, it wasn't a secret, like it's been out for a long time. It's not like erotic at all. So the idea here, the big conspiracy theory is that he was fired because Disney learned about this OnlyFans. But what I've been hearing from my own research is that DeMayo is a nightmare to work with. He's someone who's very verbally and emotionally abusive to the people who work under him.
Mm.
And my guess is that there was like some type of like HR thing that blew up that caused Disney to distance themselves from him. But I want to throw this to the panel for those of you who have read the article and stuff like that. It is very odd. So Brian, when it comes to this show, like Disney was really hyping it up, and now it's been kind of smeared by this controversy, and a lot of people are wondering like, okay, how is this going to impact things? Because he was getting ready to pitch season 3 essentially,
Right.
And now like the writers' room's kind of leaderless. Nobody knows what's going on,
Mm.
and people are still kind of digging in and trying to figure out, okay, what exactly did he do to get fired? And this could be another Jonathan Majors situation where Disney gets a big black eye because of like the people that they employ. What's your take on this?
Disney gets a big black eye, and so did someone else. Oh, I mean, cursory looking into it, I did see some photos, and I mean, yeah, he's not a bad looking guy.
You got thirsty, Brian?
I'm just, I'm not thirsty. He's not my type. I mean, he's not my type.
Wow.
But that OnlyFans was set up a long time ago, so that's not the reason he's getting fired. He's getting fired for something much worse, and we're not going to know what it is for a long time, and if ever. And it's probably something. Yeah, it's probably a Jonathan Majors kind of thing. I mean, I'm not saying the exact same thing, but there's probably something about that.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't like some of his creative choices with X-Men either. So to me, it's like I haven't seen X-Men 97 yet, but from what I've seen, like the trailers and all that, I'm just like, eh.
Which choices in particular?
Like the animation choices. It feels like they tried to upgrade the past and bring it into the present, but it feels like a downgrade.
Yeah.
Everything feels like it feels like it's less detailed and less colorful and less everything. It feels like they took something that I remember watching as a kid and being like, this is amazing, and they've made it. And you can compare the two. You can go and look at the old cartoons. It's not like they don't exist. They exist out there. Go and watch. Just compare the shots, and you'll see like one looks like it was made for like Nickelodeon teens. Now it's like so dumbed down and like less detail.
Yeah,
I bet you I can upscale the original episodes and get a better quality product with no budget than what they've done. So I'm not a fan of it. And some of the character choices too, like they're bringing in like a lot of like DEI kind of stuff, when X-Men doesn't require that.
No.
X-Men is like the definition of DEI. They already have all they need. You don't need to like force even more blatant, DEI into a show that's like made. It was already made for that purpose. It makes no sense. So, I don't see a loss here. Whether you're an X-Men fan or not, I don't see a loss. I see it as probably a good thing that this guy's not around, and hopefully he didn't do anything to actually damage someone. Hopefully whatever reason is, the reason is that they're letting him go was not actually someone getting hurt or emotionally damaged for life. Hopefully it was something stupid, like maybe he just stole money maybe it was a money thing. Maybe he just laundered money away from the project or something. Hopefully it's something benign and no one actually got hurt.
Yeah.
Well, Danica, I wanted to ask you, just number one, what do you think about them trying to bring back the old X-Men cartoon? In addition to, how do you think that this scandal is going to affect how people receive it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Marvel Disney is struggling right now. After Endgame, they really have lost the plot, and they need something that can get eyes on them again, because everything they're doing is just like they're hitting the point of diminishing returns. And the X-Men is a property that they haven't tapped into yet, and it is a much beloved property. And I mean, X-Men, that number one from the 90s with Jim Lee and Chris Claremont remains today like the top selling comic of all time, you know, and there is so many of us who love the original animated series. That's how I got into the X-Men, was from the 94 animated series. And now, you know, many of us have children and we want to expose our children to X-Men. And it's like you hit that nostalgia button, man. They're definitely hitting that nostalgia button. And so I'm really worried about their take on the X-Men, because the reason that the cartoon series was so successful was because they were just using the material from the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, it was adapted, and I mean, there was slight changes and things like that. It wasn't like totally a one-for-one necessarily, but they really stuck to the Chris Claremont stories. And that's what made it so fucking good. And so I'm concerned going into this that they're going to go off of that and they're doing their own thing with it. And I don't trust these people. I mean, I already see that Jean Grey's pregnant. She's never been impregnated by Scott in the 616. Like, she's been impregnated by Scott in a bunch of other universes, you know, and a bunch of other side things. But I'm like, oh, that's not in the comics. Like, oh shit, you know, we'll see. Personally, though, I don't mind Morph. You know, they're like, oh, Morph is non-binary. And it's like, well, he's a shapeshifter. Of course he would be. Of course he would be. You can have a penis or a vagina. Who cares? Like,
Right,
you would give a fuck. Like, you would be like, whatever, sure.
Non-binary.
You would not be defined by gender nonsense, I feel like, if you were a shapeshifter. If you could truly experience both sides, like physically, I think you just be like, oh yeah, this is great. All these things are great. It's a different situation. It's a different ballgame. But I'm very concerned about how it's gonna come out. And I agree with you too about how it doesn't look as good. It's not as curvy, you know. And I know people have been talking about Rogue's ass, and it's like, and you know, it sucks that we can't.
It's not just Rogue's ass though. There's a lot of detail missing.
No, there is a lot.
That's a huge part of it, but.
But I mean, there is a lot of detail missing, and that's one thing. It's just like, I don't know. The X-Men are so sexual. Like, you can't desexualize the X-Men, you know? And it's weird because they make them more sexual in some ways that I don't care for, and then they make them less sexual ways in the ways that I do care about, where I'm just like, what? Like, we're gonna talk about their fucking gender identities and their fucking, you know, how their sexual identities, but we're gonna make them look not as curvy and not as hot, not as sexy. Like, get out of here. But I am excited. Tone. There'll be a new generation of X-Men fans, and that's always good. You know, I love that. I've been seeing people like doing like a bunch of fan art of these characters. And again, I love that. So it's like same with Denis Villeneuve's Dune, even though there's stuff that I don't agree with. I'm so glad there's more people who are into Dune now because of it. And maybe some of these people will go back and read some of the original X-Men comics. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you know, Odin, I know that when it comes to the X-Men, they're figuring in to be a big part of Marvel Studios phase, whatever. I don't even know what we're on yet. So like this resurgence of the cartoon was meant to kind of do what the original cartoon did, which was introduce a new generation of kids to like the X-Men and like get them into the characters and get them excited. And so like when they come out in the movies, you know, there's going to be a big lineup to see like, oh, like who's the new Wolverine, who's, you know, Professor X and all this stuff. So you can clearly see that Disney meant for this to kind of set the stage to kind of like appeal to a younger audience who, by the time the X-Men movies come out, will be primed to want to go see them. The question now is like, what did this guy do that could have sabotaged those plans so completely and have them on lockdown? There are some rumors out there that this is almost like a Bryan Singer type situation that might have something to do with like, minors or something like that. So I wanted to get your take on it. Do you think that this could hurt Marvel's strategy with the X-Men?
I don't think anything can really help or hurt it any more than it already is, because I know for me, I didn't grow up watching the original X-Men animated series. I've seen a couple episodes here and there over time, mostly as I've, in my older years. But I totally understand why there's so much connection to it. That, like, for so many people, that is their version of Batman the animated series. For me, like, I grew up watching that and loved it and watched so many of those episodes. That's how I learned about Batman and a lot of the different characters, so that when they eventually started doing live action, I actually understood a lot more, because I was like, oh, I actually remember a lot of this from the cartoon that I watched when I was younger. It seems like now, though, that's not what they're trying to do. It seems like, oh, this is a continuation of this. And whereas the original show was meant to introduce people to the X-Men, introduce them to different characters, to the lore, this one seems more like a, not so, veiled attempt to try to just, again, make things woke, to try to make decisions based on identity politics, and just to continue the same nonsense that they've been doing now for many, many years. And I've been saying this for a long time, until there is a massive shakeup at the top of the food chain in all of the areas, nothing is ever going to change. If I had to guess what this guy did, it probably was something like Bryan Singer, or it was something to that extent where it was more of a personal issue rather than an ideological issue. Because as some have already said, it doesn't seem like everything we know about the series is against the ideology of the prevailing powers that be at Disney. But this is just, again, one of those other reminders that we always seem to get, that nothing is changing at Disney. Doesn't matter how much money they've lost so far. Doesn't matter how many films they put out that continue to bomb. Doesn't matter that they lost money on every single film they released in theaters back in 2023. And it doesn't look that much better for this year either. For some reason, the people in power are not being pushed. And unless something happens with the whole Peltz thing, which is something that is well beyond even my head, I don't see anything happening anytime soon that's going to turn things around.
Yeah, and just looking at what happened with the whole Jonathan Majors thing and the way Disney reacted to it, if you have the creator and showrunner and lead writer of like their primary like children/young adult cartoon show that they're putting out on Disney Plus, and he did something inappropriate with a minor of some type, like what type of parent would let them watch that show, right? But I want to ask Danika, because you have so many great videos about X-Men on your channel. What do you think about Marvel's plans for the X-Men going forward, and do you think that they can actually pull it off without making it terrible?
I have zero faith in Marvel Disney. I have no faith in them whatsoever. I used to be an avid X-Men comic book reader, and I mean, the first time they did the Hellfire Gala after like whatever, I was like, oh my god, I'm out. Like, I'm out. Like, the people that are in charge, it's so awful. Like, they just don't get the X-Men, and they don't understand, and I hate it. I hate it, and I don't think it's going to be different for this cartoon series. Like, and I'm hoping, maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love to have a great X-Men cartoon, but I don't think right now that they're capable of making like good decisions, at least in my opinion, for storytelling. Because there is just, and as we all know, it's like there's just so much preachiness in a lot of things today, and it's very ham-fisted, and it's just like shoving shit down your throat, and it's like, you can put messaging in art. I mean, there is traditionally, that's what artists do, is like you make a piece of art and you put your ideas in there and you expose the world to these ideas. But you don't do it in such a way that you're forcing people into it. Like you have to sugar the pill, as it were. You have to, have a really great story and have characters that you really care about and do wonderful things with those characters. And you have to make me care. And then also let me make my own decision. Like, that's the thing that I appreciate. It's just like, let me make my own decision. And they just can't seem to be, they're not able to do that anymore. Like, that whole tradition of art has been lost lately. It's just very much people telling you how you're supposed to think and feel about things. And, you know, I didn't like that when I was growing up in the South, you know, in the Bible Belt. And I don't like it now coming from the other side. It sucks. It's a fucking bummer. It's like, just make a good story. You know, these characters are fantastic. Like, I love their interpersonal relationships. Like, you don't have to make it about our world and everything that's I'm so tired. I like, that's another thing too. It's like, I'm tired of our world. I'd like a little escapism, please. Like, just like give me a little bit. Like, just like let me like not like let me just, you know, like have a good time here, entertain me.
That's the problem across all of entertainment right now. It's like, keep modern day politics and our modern day issues out of our IPs that we love. You know, everything from this to Star Trek to Star Wars. It's just like,
and Dune.
And Dune. I don't want it there.
Yeah,
I don't want it there. You know. It's like, yeah, I don't need a pronoun lecture set in a show 900 years in the future. Fuck you. You know, it's insane. So,
yeah, it gets old.
Yeah, it gets really old.
It does, and I really miss the days in which writers actually cared about their craft and learned it, and then started applying basic tenets of storytelling. Nowadays, it seems like everyone from the comic book industry to the video game industry to the, you know, entertainment industry like Hollywood and movies and TV and stuff like that, they get their jobs because, you know, they're friends with somebody, as opposed to actually having like a background in storytelling, a background in writing, and knowing how to craft characters and craft engaging, like, you know, fictional narratives that are going to pull people in. So it's really very tragic. But,
well, it's interesting though. I see somebody in the chat and they're saying Star Trek was woke before it was cool, says Dennis Wright. And, you know, I would say that Star Trek is progressive. Like, there's a difference between, you know, having progressive ideas or being like woke, where for me, woke is where somebody's just shoving their agenda down your throat and it's just like not fun and there's no lube and it sucks, you know. And progressive, like Star Trek is like, oh, yeah.
Great, Frank Herbert.
And, but with love. But with love.
Love.
But with love.
Oh, boy.
So yeah. I mean, I get the criticism, but at the same time, I think there's a slight difference there.
All right. Well, we got a couple of super chats we need to get to. 52 movies a year. Member for 9 months. Thank you. 52 movies a year. DC movie model. Good movie, bad movie, shit movie, meh movie, studio interference movie, nobody cares movie, reboot, repeat love, the analogy, Mexican Iron Man. The casino is gambling with their movies and everyone is losing. That is probably the best breakdown of the DC strategy I've seen yet. 52 movies. So
that's a t-shirt. Put that whole thing on a t-shirt.
Exactly. And pussy in bio for $4.99. That is my lovely wife.
I knew it was her. I knew it was her.
I love it. I love it.
It's like when you're cooking sad and can taste sadness in your food. We can taste the money grab in today's movies and TV shows.
100%. 100%.
100%.
Pussy in bio.
That was a joke from our last live stream.
Amazing.
And Lover of Green for $10. The best news of 2024 is the MSM layoffs. They called us fans bad names, promoted degenerate influencers, and refuse to admit that the coof is over for 99% of the world. Good riddance to those hacks. Peace.
It's just the flu, man. It's just the flu. Just stay home. Stay home for a couple of days. Stay home.
That's what it is now. You're good. It's a couple of days later, and that's what they're saying now. It's just the flu.
If you don't have a fever, you're golden.
I think they've even said it's now just
4 years. 4 years.
Changed it to flu protocol.
Yeah, they just changed it to it's the flu. Oh my God! For 4 years they ruined the planet. All right, cool. Just the flu.
And demonetized. We're demonetized.
Oh my God.
We are not doctors. Just
yes, we are not doctors.
No, we're not doctors.
Well, we have hit herd immunity, and that is what happens when, you know, viruses come and people get infected by them, and you have your first wave that's going to be more gnarly, but then progressively people will be like, okay, we can handle it, and then it's fine.
Figure that out.
We may not be doctors, but it seems that Bob Iger is doing some diagnoses. So let's talk about sequels
the transition
for some bad Marvel movies. So guys, I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically Marvel came out and said, "Hey, we're not going to be making any sequels to Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, or the Eternals."
Oh
Thank
no!
God. Oh my
And
God. The best news of the
No.
week.
I was really looking forward to Eternals too.
I wish we had
Basically-
that. I wish we had
Everyone
a
was.
soundboard with the audience applause button, but I don't have one. We need
I have
Thomas.
that. Hold
Just
on.
golf clap
Let's
it,
see
golf
which
clap
one
it.
is it.
So
There we go. There we go.
there we go. So Bob Iger is supposedly behind these, and he in particular said that he didn't want an Eternals 2 because he was pretty sure it was going to flop majorly. So Bob
Like the
Iger,
first one.
yeah, just like the first one. So this all kind of broke on Twitter, and then there was this great Bounding into Comics article about it. By the way, guys, everyone in the audience, all the links to the stuff that we reference here on the show is in the description if you want to read it for yourself. But basically, we kind of saw how Brie Larson was very down on returning as Captain Marvel, and that
Oh my
could be
God.
because
Yeah.
she knew that there was she was contracted for something like 7 films or something like that, but she knew that she probably wasn't going to get a third sequel. Not that the sequel was actually a sequel to her movie; they turned it into an ensemble for some reason. But we know that
because
Ant-Man-
everybody hates her and she hates the audience, and so it's like you got to have other people in there.
And the first movie was a fluke. I mean,
Exactly. So basically, all the movies that flopped, Ant-Man, Quantumania, Eternals, and the Marvels, basically, Marvel's saying enough is enough. We're not throwing good money after bad. We're not going to be doing any sequels to this anytime soon.
Thank God.
So, Odin, since you are our box office guru here, from strictly a financial decision, do you think that this is a good idea for Marvel going forward?
well, it's not going to hurt. I mean, it's basically like, oh, okay, now
Yeah.
we're just going to spend less money, so we're not going to lose as much money as we would have had we put these out there. I've always been very vocal explaining how their films have not been profitable for quite a long time. If you go all the way back to, for instance, back to 2019, which was Avengers Endgame, the last time they made any massive profits on a film, none of their movies have actually made money. All of them have been losses, with really only 2 exceptions. One of which we know is going to change, and that would be Wakanda Forever, because we know that the actual budget for the film is higher than what was being told. We were just waiting on some reports from those UK tax return stuff, and then Guardians 3. But with that one, we also know that they spent a lot more on the marketing budget for that film, and so the $3.9 million it made in profit probably won't exist once those numbers actually get put in. And so, yeah, basically all they're doing is limiting the number of films. I mean, because you have, just as far as MCU films, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 films or so that have come out since Endgame. And where is the MCU now? The last and most recent one was the biggest box office bomb since Black Widow for them, which came out during COVID, had the whole day and date release stuff going on, so it had everything working against it. But the Marvels lost a whopping $239+ million for them because it made nothing. So this is a great move for them because it's just them spending less money.
How much money would they have spent had they made those 3 movies? Close to $1 billion, probably.
billion.
I say,
bucks,
yeah,
yeah.
because they would have spent easily at least $150+ million, probably $200+
For
million
each one?
dollars on each one. That would be what? How many of the films were canceled? 3, 4?
Yeah.
So 2, 4, 6, $680 million, $600,
Plus marketing.
$800 million that they would have spent plus marketing, and so you're really looking at it being closer to like maybe 15. Oh my goodness, over $1 billion probably.
Yeah.
That they would have
Yeah.
spent all together on those things, and there's
Yeah,
no way they would have made
wild.
$1 billion back. Yeah.
Bob
Oh, wow.
Iger's really smart. What's happening right now? It's like he made a good business decision. It's incredible.
So
Can I
Vader-
just I just want to say really quick, I'm really disappointed in the fact that we're not getting an Eternals 2 because now we're never going to get rid of that goddamn giant celestial that's
Yeah.
coming out of the Indian Ocean right now, that's destroying the planet. I
That's
don't,
right.
I'm really upset about this because it's
giant.
just there. How are we going to get rid of that thing? It's crazy.
Isn't it made out like vibranium too, or something like
I don't
that?
know. It's I don't know. But it's there. They've got to address it. They've never addressed it.
Vader, I wanted to ask you. So, like, you're a big opponent of taking C and D list characters and trying to make them
Yeah.
into something that they're not. So like we had Ant-Man, we had, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, Photon, and of course all the Eternals. None of these characters were characters that fans of the actual comics like cared about, and none of the normies knew about these characters until they got their own movies. So do you think that Marvel's might be pivoting to try to bring out more well-known characters? Of course we got Captain Sam, and then we got Ironheart, and then we got frickin' I don't know, Blade. So like some type of recognizable characters, but at the same time, is anyone going to care enough to show up for these movies when they come out?
I mean, they've got a lot of work to do to make people want to care about the MCU at this point, right? I mean, they've really dropped the ball here the last couple of years, and it's gonna take some work. I don't know what else to say there. I mean, I have heard stories that there's a Thor 4 in the works. Is that true? Has anybody heard this? And I've heard stories that they're trying to get Robert Downey Jr. to come back for an Iron Man thing, but
multiverse thing,
yeah, maybe. I mean, all those things need to happen. They need to. I mean, without they got to pivot away from this MCU stuff. They need, for lack of a better term, they need their boys back. They need these characters that people love and are already invested in to come back and make some movies to steer the ship back in the right direction. I would love to see another Iron Man movie with Robert Downey Jr. Give me a Thor movie not directed by Taika Waititi. Let's see it. Yeah. Nobody cares about these D grade characters unless they're just making cameo appearances, so we can go, oh look, there's that person from issue whatever from 1967. It's like, it is what it is. So
yeah. And Danica, Marvel made a big thing about stepping back and taking some time to retool, and so basically the only release that we're getting this year is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. And in the meantime, they're making plans for Fantastic Four and all these other slate big movies that they have coming out. But why do you think it's so hard for Marvel to figure out a coherent content strategy that is actually going to resonate with the fan base?
I think that part of it is, I mean, I do believe that after Endgame, they should have taken a break. Like you were saying earlier, it's just take a break for a couple years, gather your strength, figure out what your plan is. Cause when they started this whole thing, and that's the thing is when they started their cinematic universe, there wasn't such a thing as a cinematic universe, and it turned into that. And it was something that was a magical kind of lightning in a bottle situation that you can't replicate. And unfortunately, the money makers are we got to replicate this. We got to keep this going. We got to do it again. And it's just you can't. You should be grateful for what you had, and then you need to take a moment, and then you need to step back, and then you need to reorganize and replan. And again, if they could just find people who are familiar with the stories, who cared about the stories, and just did the stories, then they'd be good. Just do what you bought this IP, you spent so much money on buying Marvel. You have all of it right there. You got so many things to pull from, so many amazing fucking story arcs to pull from. Just do that. Just use the shit that you bought. That's good, that people like. That's that's time tested.
No, they know they like it.
They don't want to do numbers. That they got to go straight to 2010 woke comic book bullshit. And
skip everything everyone loves. Yeah.
Skip decades of awesome work.
Yeah. It's so odd.
And source material, and go straight to this nonsense that everybody hates. You think about what they did. I mean, from Iron Man to Endgame, there's 20 some movies there that tell a extremely long yet cohesive story.
Yep.
The logistics in that is mind-boggling. You have to give them credit for that, and that it was all connected, and it was super cool to watch. It was super cool to watch play out in the movie theater. I think I went to the theater for every single one of those movies.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing accomplishment. And then they just fell off a cliff with this She-Hulk, Miss Marvel nonsense.
Yeah, that went too hard.
It was crazy. So yeah, it makes me sad because they did such a great job. They told such fun stories, and they have such a wealth of source material to pull from. And even with like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four stuff coming up, they could do the same thing, but they're not. They're gonna mess it up.
They're gonna fuck it up.
We're getting Pedro Pascal, Mr. Fantastic. It's like, what
I don't know, man.
It's just come on. It's get out of here. But I don't know. It makes me sad. It makes me look forward to DC movies. Give me some Superman.
Right. Well, and that Pedro Pascal. Like I love Pedro Pascal. He's fantastic, but not in this role.
No.
Like Reed Richards is like autistic. Okay, like he's like on the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like that guy is like so busy, like with his experiments that like his wife is having to go fuck around with Namor. You know what I mean? Pedro Pascal is not that. You know, like he's a spicy daddy. Like he's like I don't buy him in that role of like I'm a cold, aloof scientist who's so busy with his science that he neglects his wife. Like I don't get that from him.
And Ricardo Richards.
I also think it's odd that you had John Krasinski in Doctor Strange, and everyone flipped out. They were like, "Oh, he's perfect for it." And,
Perfect.
Right.
Just like nah.
Oh my god. Well, let me put something out there too. I finally saw the Wolverine Deadpool trailer, and I just cringed so hard when I saw the TVA. It's like, don't put your fucking shitty Loki TV show crap in this fucking movie. Like, don't you fucks. I was so upset. And it just like made me like so much less interested in the film. I'm just like, oh God, please. And I just, again, I'm so scared of what they're going to do with a live action X-Men. I'm just terrified because being an X-Men fan is like being a fucking masochist, you know. It's like you're just gonna get your heart ripped out over and over again, you know. They're just always getting fucked, and as a fan you're always getting fucked. So we'll see. I don't know, like I hope that it's good, but I don't have
Deadpool's gonna kill the Marvel universe. He's gonna kill it, and it's gonna be super fourth wall break.
I hope
and
so.
all these cancellations, I'm just going the positive route here, are gonna be a good thing for the MCU. That's what I think.
All right, guys, I want to try to fit in one more story before we wrap things up. And that is that Patty Jenkins somehow has returned to the Star Wars universe. And basically, this was announced late yesterday, I think. So James Gunn basically said, no Wonder Woman for you because 84 sucked. And now that she has an opening in her schedule, she kind of went crawling back to Lucasfilm. And they were like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do Rogue Squadron again. And so this is a definite mulligan that Lucasfilm is taking along with Patty Jenkins. And it's kind of an odd decision here, but I wanted to throw it to Brian. Is Brian even here? Did he?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. I wanted to throw this to you, Brian. Like, how many times does Lucasfilm have to announce something, then cancel it, then re-announce it, all that stuff?
4.5 times, Matt. It has to be at least 4.
It's on brand at least.
This isn't from Lucasfilm. This is from Patty Jenkins. This is something that she put out, right? This isn't a Lucasfilm announcement. This is something that she put out personally. Said, "Hey, I'm going to go make my Star Wars movie." I don't believe it.
Imagine if she's not aware that they canceled it.
I don't believe this is happening. I think this is nonsense because this didn't come from a Lucasfilm press release. This is her on Twitter or some shit.
Her assistant's like, "Hey, Patty, they canceled your movie."
Am I wrong? Am I wrong here?
She should know if it's like canceled or not, right?
So Vader, is your theory that Patty Jenkins pulling a Zack Snyder and announcing that she's doing this movie?
Yes.
To force Lucasfilm to give her money to make this movie?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Go with
wow.
That. Go with that.
It says they reached out to Lucasfilm, but that's the Variety article just says they reached out. There's nothing
from Lucasfilm that said that she's making.
Lucasfilm said no comment.
So this is a PR strategy. Okay.
Exactly
okay. It's like plans within plans. She's trying some Bene Gesserit shit. I see.
Danica, do you think that there's an audience for a Rogue Squadron movie where it's like no Jedi? It's just like after the sequel trilogy, there's a new crew of pilots for the universe. Do you think anyone's going to care about this?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of really hardcore Star Wars fans who will watch anything Star Wars, and they'll just eat shit no matter what it is if it's got a Star Wars fucking name on it. So there'll definitely be dudes that'll see it. Now, will it be a big like commercial success? Will it be a huge success for the mainstream audience? No, but they'll definitely have an audience. But those, and then they'll grumble about it.
Well, their audience is YouTubers who like to talk about shitty movies on YouTube channels.
Yes.
Like this one that we're on right now.
Yes, that's what we do.
We're the audience.
We are the audience.
That's
So,
right. Can't wait to watch it. So we can
Yeah,
complain
it's
about
gonna be great.
So
I know,
based
right?
on the actual quote from Hollywood Reporter, the quote from the interview, Lucasfilm and I were like, oh, we've got to finish this deal. We finished the deal right as the strike was beginning. So now I owe a draft of Star Wars. We will see what happens there. Who knows? So it even sounds like for her announcement that it's still on is still a, yeah, knows.
This is some Mike Zero
Right.
bullshit.
Right.
This is
Right.
some Mike Zero level reporting right here going on.
Yeah.
So
Pretty much.
Yeah,
From Variety.
yeah,
Variety
good
and,
job, Variety.
and Glider and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. All good things must come to an end. But I want to thank my fantastic panel of nerds for showing up sort of on time and sharing their wonderful, wonderful insights with us. Odin, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Final thoughts, I guess, would just be it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks with the box office because we've got the that next Ghostbusters film coming out next weekend, and then after that, it's the next MonsterVerse film. I only have interest in really one of those movies, and I'm sure you can all guess which one that is. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to say the least about what actually happens. And the Magical Society, American Society of Magical blank, is not doing anything at the box office, and it's pretty hilarious to see. But you can find me over at OMP Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, also over on Twitter. And yeah, I do streams every Tuesday evening talking about box office and movie stuff. So check me out over there.
Yeah, who knew every movie-going person was a racist?
I know,
it's
right?
Very shocking. Next, the lovely and talented DanikaXIX, formerly known as Comic Book Girl 19. Thank you so much for being here. You were a real pleasure to have. Your insights are always on point.
yes.
Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yes, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me. And you can find me on YouTube, Comic Book Girl 19. I highly recommend checking out my Epic History X-Men documentary series. There's 3-hour-long documentaries about the X-Men, where they came from, when they got big, and all the way up to the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix saga. So if you're interested in X-Men, you want to know more about the actual Chris Claremont stories, and also the Stanley and Jack Kirby stuff, like from the beginning, then that's a great place to start. Also, there's Dune clubs on there if you want to read Dune, and it's a really dense book. It's super hard. I will help get you through the sands of Arrakis if you're looking for help. And then I also have a new Dune 2 review. It's a 47-minute long review on my YouTube channel. You can check out as well. Later today at 3:30 Pacific, I will be screening Lair of the White Worm on twitch.tv/DanikaXIX. So come join me for that. It'll be really, really fun and weird. And my live censoring, there's no way I can censor all of it. So you're probably going to see something. And then also, I just want to mention that I'm on Twitter and Instagram at DanikaXIX. So you can follow me there to get all of your updates. And one more thing I want to plug is I love Dune so much that I created not one, but 2 Dune albums. So there is the Dune Wave EP, which came out many, many years ago when I started Dune Club. And recently, last year, I released Dune Wave Odyssey. I created this album with my friend Akira the Dawn, who is the master of Meaning Wave. You can stream it. You can download it on any of your favorite music platforms. You can listen to it for free on YouTube. Just check out Dune Wave Odyssey. But I've taken quotes from across all 6 Dune books and arranged them into songs. I spoke them in my Bene Gesserit voice, and then Akira the Dawn turned them into bops. So if you want to listen to some Dune bangers, personally right now, after finishing my taxes, I've been blasting Trust No Government in my home. So that's one of my songs, one of my title tracks there. So check it out.
Guys, if you haven't checked out Danica's channel yet, so her Dune Club, if you haven't read any of the Dune books, just watch her videos. They're so in-depth and detailed, like you feel like you've read the entire book by the time you get to the end of them. They are Jude's favorite videos out there because she's such a Dune head.
Thank you.
But also like your creator series where you talk about Chris
yeah.
Claremont and Jack Kirby and all those guys. Definitely worth a watch if you're on there. And in fact, you also did a InCal book club. For those of you who don't know, Jodorowsky took his idea for Dune and basically changed the name of everything and just put it out as a comic book. And Danica kind of like covers that as well. So if you want to read it with love,
We love.
Another movie I don't want to see a live action, or another comic I don't want to see a live action made out of, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We will see. All right, Brian from the Popcast.
Hey.
Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
You can always find me at our main channel, the Popcast. In fact, we have a brand new, yes, that's what I want to show. Brand new, our Dune documentary just dropped on Wednesday. I'm not as big as a Dune head as Danica, so this took us about a month to make. We weren't in the know. This is about the definitive history of the entire franchise. So going back from Frank Herbert writing the book all the way to now, and not about the actual story, but about how everything was made and how he had the idea and who was involved. And it's very detailed, and it took us about a month to make. So go check it out. And I'm pretty proud of this one, even though I wasn't really a fan of the last Dune movie. So I hope you guys can check it out.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't seen the original Popcast channel, the main Popcast channel before, there are so many fantastic like pop culture, movie, TV documentaries on there. So worth. You can go down a rabbit hole really quick with those guys.
Yeah.
Like you also did like what was it, a Galaxy Quest documentary?
Galaxy Quest, Willy Wonka.
Yeah,
Firefly.
Yeah, so definitely worth checking out and watching those. I'm definitely going to be watching that Dune one as well because that I find the whole making of process very interesting, and Dune's been through so many different iterations.
Oh yeah.
All right, Matt Vader, LXXIV.
That's right. LXXIV.
Any final thoughts, and what do we got going on this week?
What do we have going on this week? I'm not really sure. We have our Tuesday stream, and we have I'm sure we're going to be getting together in the studio on Tuesday and do our weekly recording session. And we always do our live stream there, and we talk about movies and TV shows and whatever else is going on. I hope we talk a little bit about Fallout this week. I'm going to insist that we do a little bit of Fallout discussion on Tuesday because I'm really looking forward to that show. And really, I feel like we missed last week, so I'm kind of lost as to what we're doing. I got to get together with you. But
so Alex is not going to be in studio on Tuesday, unfortunately, but he is being replaced temporarily by astrophysicist Dr. Thomas Target.
The doc.
He will be in Alex's chair, and he will be giving us all of his scientific insights into all the fictional stuff we're talking about. And the primary discussion topic of Tuesday is going to be the 3-body problem. So,
okay.
It's a Chinese communist author who created a trilogy of science fiction books that the former showrunners of Game of Thrones have decided to turn into a very mediocre Netflix series. So we're going to be covering that stuff on Tuesday.
I just bought the books, so I'm going to read them pretty soon.
The first book's not good, Danica. I'm sorry.
I'm also a little bit disappointed in you because the link to my YouTube channel is not in the stuff underneath it. But I want to let everybody know at Matt Vader 74 on YouTube. I am starting up my fledgling little gaming channel. I have about 10 years to get it monetized before I retire. So please come and join me over there. I'm going to be doing some nostalgia streams. I'm going to be going through StarCraft 2 for us oldies, for these old games that we like to play. And I'm doing some Helldivers and lots of other stuff. And I just downloaded PUBG so I can learn how to be a shooter. So if you want to come watch me be terrible at video games, come subscribe to my channel. And I might even try to do some stuff with Brian pretty soon because he's going to teach me how to play Dota.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
So that's going to be fun. So check that out.
All right. Want to give a big shout out to Stephen Abbott and GJJ for being members of our channel. And also to everyone who gave us super chats. Mexican Iron Man, Pussy in bio and lover of green. Pussy, by the way, is spelled Pussie, so it's not get that dirty thought out of your brains, people.
Get it out.
And also to those of you who gave us member chats, Mexican Iron Man, Death Row, 52 movies a year. Thank you all so much for being here today. Really appreciate all the support that you guys give the channel. We couldn't do this without you guys. So big thanks to you. And of course, William Forbus, top contributor and top super chatter. Thank you so much for your support. And
looking forward to meeting him in a couple weeks. He's coming to visit.
Yeah. He's going to be coming out for the Nerdrotic meetup.
Cool.
And a lot of people are going to be coming out for that. So we're going to be really looking forward to hosting those people and all that good stuff. So guys, thank you all for being here, and tune in next week, same salty time, same salty channel, as we will have a new guest and new topics to talk about that nobody's going to care about. Until next time, stay salty, my friends.
Hey folks, thanks so much for watching this live stream. If you want to watch our previous live stream, make sure to click right here. Or if you would like to check out one of our favorite highlights, click right here.